It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, and my employee in his house in Rainford, Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, employee?
It's incredible how some people can get some things so twisted.
Should we explain how people got things twisted, Neil, as the
kids
would say? Liz, or as she's known in the trades as NFL Girl UK, is starting her podcast, the 99 Yards, I believe. Please download and rate accordingly. And ask for our help in how to set that up. Obviously, Dutton's what we would describe in the trades as a tech spaz. So he asked for my help. It then transpires that she then said in a group chat that Dutton spoke to his boss, Mains.
Well, ultimately, just as long as our fan base knows who the real rainmaker is here, that's fine.
That's fine. You can be the rainmaker, but that would still make me in charge.
Yeah.
We'll all accept our roles. So Dutton, we finally got to the end, and
it ends tonight.
It ends tonight with a review of all the divisions with the West, and some really good teams actually, both the AFC and the NFC.
An intriguing set of divisions.
More in the NFC. Standard fare, question on each team, a fantasy darling, a fantasy loser, and then a discussion on the schedule and the over-under. So without further ado, Dalton, let's get this party started, and let's go with the Denver Broncos. And the one big question for me, it's pretty simple really. Have people secretly missed how bad the Denver Broncos could actually be?
It does seem to be somewhat under the radar point of view. I mean, defensively, they've got an awful lot of the same pieces. I mean, they've been a defensive team for the last couple of years. It's an underwhelming quarterback in Trevor Siemian, but he's so much better than Paxton Lynch. They've got decent pieces on offense. I mean, Demaryius Thomas, Manny Sanders. The running game annoys me. But to me, they just look like the quintessential team that literally... The best bet is to try and win games 2014. They're not going to blow anyone away anytime soon, but defensively, you can't see them getting blown away.
Yeah, I mean, they are good defensive outfit. They're not the Wade Phillips defensive outfit that they were, and he's not there anymore. We will get onto Wade later. They still have talent, obviously, but I look and, as you said, the running game annoys you, but it's not like in the cool way it used to, where it annoys you because you didn't know who was going to run for 1,000 yards. It's more like it annoys me because I don't know if any of them are any good anymore. Demaryius Thomas is one of the weirdest wide receivers in the league for me. Like, people keep on telling me he's good, and sometimes I look at his stats and they're good, but he never seems to do anything. And every time I watch him, he drops it.
Harsh. I mean, I like Thomas. I think, ultimately, I think he's got an incredibly safe floor. Especially as he has a chemistry with Mike McCoy, previous offensive coordinator before he went to the Chargers. He's back in charge now. Now, a lot of people thought, basically, that would mean, it's just going to be bubble screen to Demaryius Thomas. Not seen an awful lot of that in the preseason, but you can't read too much of that because they don't want to tip the hand. And if we all presume they're going to bubble screen it up to Demaryius 5, 6, 7 times a game, you'd assume better qualified, better paid defensive coaches are probably going to realise it as well. So they don't need to have it shoved down their throat in pre-season games.
Yeah, I don't know. They're a weird team for me. It seems only moments ago that they were Super Bowl champs, and now I'm looking at them going, are they the worst team in this division? I don't know.
The case could be made because, let's be honest, I think they've got the weakest quarterback situation.
Yeah, absolutely. But, we talk about the skill positions all the time, don't we? And we like to give the good and the bad. And let's start with the good and let's find out who the fantasy darling is.
Hello, darling.
It's the aforementioned Mr. Thomas. As I say, you can't hang your hat on anyone in this run game. Manny Sanders has been good, but I will always give the edge at this battle or partnership, whoever you want. I'll give it to Demaryius Thomas. His floor, since he's been an established starter, is 90 catches, 1,100 yards, and 6 to 10 touchdowns. And plus, I say he's going stupidly cheap. I mean, I've been getting him in the third round. Every draft, he's there in the third. Some, when I've missed out because I wanted someone else, I've seen him there still in the fifth. I think from a volume point of view, he's the safest thing. I mean, this team has got nothing. Let's be honest. The third wide receiver, can you name him? I can't. Benny Fowler, I think.
I'm going to say Benny Fowler. Cody Lattimore.
Yeah. Cody Lattimore apparently is a trade candidate. Well, I'm good for extraneous crap in the house, so I don't want to train for him. Couldn't tell you the tight end. I mean, Jeff Heuerman and Jake Butt might be good, but he's coming off ACL surgery. Thomas is the best thing about this offense from a fantasy point of view.
I have a feeling we're going to quickly get back onto the running game here because we're going to talk about a fancy loser. Have a guess right, Upton?
Yeah, have a guess right. You could say the whole running back stable, but for my money,
but that sounds like a
specifically,
WWE thing, so let's not use stable.
Yeah, the Broncos stable. For me, it's CJ Anderson. He gets an awful lot of hype, and he is effective when he's healthy. But he's never fully healthy for long. He's never had more than 850 rushing yards in college or the NFL. He doesn't play in all 16 games. This is not a great offensive line. And I just think where he's going in drafts is bizarre. And say this is not exactly a running. This is not your father's Broncos running game. That plugs someone in, sit back and enjoy the 1,400-yard, 12 touchdown season. No. These are very ordinary running backs. The boy Henderson is an intriguing, sleeper, if you will. Jamal Charles' knees are knackered, and Devontae Booker is poo George. So I would steer clear of this running game, this running back room entirely.
I love the fact that people are drafting based on the fact that it's 1998. So darling Demaryius Thomas, loser, the Four Horsemen. The Broncos stable. Over under for the Broncos for me is an interestingly high 8.5. Home games against the Cowboys, the G-Men, the Patriots, the Bengals, and the Jets, and road games against the Bills, the Eagles, the Dolphins, the Indianapolis Colts, and Washington. Over 8.5. Don't much say you.
I'm taking the under. As I said, this is a middle of the road team. It's going to be weird because Vance Joseph is essentially the CEO of this team. It's going to be left to the offensive coordinator. He's going to have input into the defense, obviously, as that's his shtick. But he's basically been brought in as a CEO, overseer type. And I just think, Trevor Siemian is not taking a team 11-5, 12-4, and going to the playoffs. I'm sure Trevor Siemian is a wonderful citizen. He's nice to old ladies and kind to kiddies, but I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. And I just think that they don't have enough firepower and offense to hang with some of the other teams in their own division.
Yeah, I tend to agree, don't I? I look and think, this is the worst team in the division for me. I don't think they're a terrible team, but they come out against three decent teams for me, or better than decent. Not the best schedule as well. There's some tough teams, some difficult games, and some offenses that can score. And the issue, I think, is if the defense doesn't play well in that particular week, they're just not going to be able to keep up. Because I'm with you. Simeon could be a nice guy, or whatever, and he's a decent quarterback, but he's not a franchise quarterback. And Broncos fans, sorry, but you've had your fair share of franchise quarterbacks, so welcome to everybody else's world.
Yeah, back in your box.
Back in your box. On to the next team in the AFC West, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. led by your man, Big Red. And the question, it's a simple one, don't it? I suppose I'm gonna spin it on from what I sent you, and I sent you what week does Patrick Mahomes start, and what I'm actually going to change it to is what situation has to occur for Patrick Mahomes to become the starter in a 2017 season.
The only way I think Patrick Mahomes gets a start in 2017 is an Alex Smith injury, or this team becomes adrift and is out of the playoff picture. Say if they start 0-6, 1-5, something like that, and they think, okay, we're going to have to take our lumps, because this team has got. This team, it doesn't matter where the draft is going to be held in 2018, because there's no point the Chiefs turning up. They don't have any draft picks. They traded up to get Patrick Mahomes. They've traded for Reggie Ragland. They made a trade today to get Cam Irving from the Browns. Sweet Jesus Christ, why? Why would you do this to yourself? So they've got 4 picks left next year's draft. No point in them coming. They are going for it now. So I feel that they believe the best way for them to go for it now is to go with a veteran quarterback. If the season goes off the rails, they're going to have to find out what Mahomes has, because basically getting Smith off the books next season is going to be a priority. But they're in win now, and Andy Reid is not going to win now with a rookie if he can avoid it. So Mahomes is not going to be a factor this season as long as this team is competitive.
The issue, I understand the logic, and you're using logic there, Dutton, and you're using logic in an NFL world with a shiny first-round draft pick quarterback on your roster. And I don't think you can use logic in that situation. And they are trying to win now. And do you know what we've learned? They can't win now with Alex Smith. And unfortunately, no team can. And we are probably, I wouldn't say card-carrying members of the Alex Smith fan club, but, we've been to a few of the meetings and had drinks with people. But let's be honest, he's not going to get you over that hump. He is right in that middle of the pack, not quite good enough. If they're winning now, this reeks of the San Francisco 49ers under Jim Harbaugh. They have got the talent everywhere on the field and want any excuse to get Patrick Mahomes on the field because he can make plays. Now, we all know that Alex Smith doesn't lose you games, but the knock on him is he doesn't make plays. Now, we are still not to know whether Mahomes can do it in the NFL, but people, in the Chiefs organisation must think he's able to do that. So, I see them at 3-3, at 4-2, and one of the other teams in this division is 6-0. And they get an itchy trigger finger. Is it the right move? Probably not. But they don't want to fall behind, and if staying static is going to make them fall behind, drafting for Patrick Mahomes is one thing, but as you quite rightly point out, getting Reggie Ragland, and okay, Cam Irving, yeah, whatever, he's garbage, but you know what I mean? Like, doing those kinds of moves is a win now position, and I think if they see the offense splutter in any way, they won't hesitate to get rid of Alex Smith.
I just think, though, as well, you look over his track record and the past with high picks of quarterbacks. Andy Reid's offense is complicated. It's not a simple West Coast offense. It's very complicated. It's very complex. Use of formations, personnel. It's not a West Coast offense that you can just pick up quickly. And this has been a criticism of why rookie wide receivers in Reid's offenses haven't really been effective. Well, amplify that up to the quarterback, when he's got to do everything. And you look at the 2 quarterbacks Reid has drafted early. One of them was Donovan McNabb with the Eagles, and the other was Kevin Cobb, also with the Eagles in 2007. McNabb started when the season was gone. Cobb never started, not in his rookie season, and ultimately not very many times for the Eagles the whole course of his career. I don't think Reid is going to feel under any pressure to put Mahomes in unless he's absolutely desperate. Because bear in mind, this team went a whole season without throwing a touchdown to wide receiver. the bar for what is acceptable for this offense is unbelievably low.
And on that spectacular note, let's talk about the fantasy implications of the Kansas City Chiefs and go first of all with their fantasy darling.
Hello, darling.
With Travis Kelce, they cut Jeremy Maclin. Don't know if you heard. They don't really have an awful lot else at wide receiver. I'm not a believer in Tyreek Hill. I think he's a gadget player. He's the next generation Cordell Patterson. Wasn't a big time performer at college. Very rarely do those players come in and then become superstars at the NFL. He'll get you your numbers that you expect from a gadget player, 500-600 receiving yards, maybe 350 on the ground. But he's a special team gadget player. Travis Kelce has had 23% of the targets over the last 2 seasons. The only knock on him, of course, is that he doesn't score touchdowns. So, Big Red, if you'd like to feature him in the red zone, that would be spectacular. Thank you very much.
I don't know. I got right on running back. I'm not sure if Dutton's give us a hint on the wide receiver concept. But let's look at the fancy loser for the Kansas City Chiefs.
In this situation, we use the term loser only in the sense that if you're drafting him at his current ADP, you're not going to get the reward you want, and it is Tyreek Hill. He's our number one receiver. That's a lovely story. Let's look at the history of number one wide receivers in fantasy under Andy Reid, and it's gone. It doesn't happen. Terrell Owens, Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, they're the only ones who are consistent. Tyreek Hill is not any of these 3 individuals. So, by all means, if he drops to 8th, 9th, 10th round, but he won't. So, I won't have any Tyreek Hill, and I have no regrets about that at all.
Let the other people in your league take him, and you be safe in the knowledge that you didn't, and they will be disappointed by about week 7. And hope to God you don't get in the way of the 1 week he's good. Because there will be 1 week where he's good. You just pray to God it's not the week you're playing him.
Mm-hmm.
Over-under, Dutton, is 9.5. Home games against your Philadelphia Eagles and my Washington Redskins. Steelers, Bills, and a nice summer trip to the Dolphins in December. They got road games against the Pats, the Texans. They play the Cowboys and the Giants back to back, and then the Jets. 9.5, Dutton. It's an interesting number. Where are you going?
Over. This team, I say, is in win now mode. It is built to win now. They'll win games at home because that the crowd noise at Arrowhead is phenomenal. It's a wonderful advantage to have. Say Eagles. We don't know what the Eagles and the Redskins are going to be this year. Let's be honest, the pair of us.
No clue.
I mean, Eagles defensively look incredible. Offensively, they look like they could have weeks. Washington, basically, you've wasted a first round pick on Josh Doxson, and he's looking more and more like a bust candidate. Steelers, we know they can. We never know what to expect from them on the road. Bills suck. Dolphins, as you say, it's going to be cold. They're playing the Jets. I think it's all pointing to the Chiefs being a player in the AFC once again.
Yeah, they're 9-7, 10-6 team, aren't they? I think that that. I think you're right. They're a player in the AFC West, definitely in the AFC overall. I'm not sure. I'm interested in the Mahomes Alex Smith thing. I really am. It's interesting. This is definitely Alex Smith's last year. Does he play all 16 games? I think we're about to find out. But I think, people will be not afraid to have an itchy trigger finger and bolt him out. So if they bolt him out, they're probably going to go under. If they don't, they probably go 10-6. We'll see. It's a tight one, though. Dutton, a new team in the AFC West, and that is your Los Angeles Chargers. In a stadium that I want to go to, a 30,000, it sounds good. I think they're playing in the Home Depot.
Is it the Staples?
I don't know. They're playing somewhere, and it's the LA Galaxy Stadium, right?
Yeah. Who plays at the Staples Center? Is that the Clippers?
It's the Lakers, and the Clippers happen to play there as well.
Right. Okay.
I guess the one big question on the Chargers. Is the same question that we always had in San Diego, Dutton. If the team can stay healthy, are the Chargers actually the best team in the AFC West?
Yes, by a country mile. I don't know anyone who doesn't love Phil Rivers. I mean,
we all know for sure that Mrs. Phil Rivers loves Phil Rivers.
She certainly enjoys his time and company. You look at the skill position players. Melvin Gordon wasn't that efficient last year, but scored touchdowns. Look at the wide receivers. Keenan Allen has looked like a beast this preseason. He's looked like the target magnet he was before he got hurt. We all know I love Tyrell Williams. Why they drafted Mike Williams when they had Tyrell, I honestly do not know. You've got Hunter Henry, who, when I spoke to Matt Money Smith, the voice of the Chargers for Out of His Radio, he thinks he's going to have a huge season. You've got Antonio Gates, who's still hunting the touchdown record, but I don't think any of us would begrudge him. So you've got Melvin Gordon. Defensively, you've got Jason Verrett at cornerback, one of the best young corners in the game. You've got possibly the best sack combo, pass rush combo in the game in Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. The only thing stopping this team is themselves and injuries.
If I was the LA Chargers, nearly said San Diego Day, it won't be the first, it won't be the last. I would have forfeited all 4 preseason games. I wouldn't have played them. I possibly wouldn't have practiced in pads. I would have wrapped everyone in cotton wool. I heard today that Keenan Allen is 66-1 to lead receiving yards. If the guy stays fit, that is a seriously interesting bet to have a look at. There are talent all over the field, and I'm not going to rename all the people you've already said, but you know and I know that when we get to next week and we start reviewing games and we talk in daily fantasy, that we'll be trying to get San Diego Chargers in the thing. And on the other side, as you quite rightly point out, Joey Bosa, Jason Verrett, absolute talents. This team has all the skills. We need to find out what the coach is like. We don't know that. Mike McCoy, I think, held them back. He's not there anymore. Let's see how this goes. There's a lot to like in Los Angeles. Whether they're going to be embraced in Los Angeles, to be determined, I think. But I tell you what will help them be embraced in Los Angeles: winning football games. And I think they got a big chance to do that.
Incredible how that, winning can, make people feel better about a thing.
Yes, absolutely, Dutton. There's a lot to choose from, Dutton, but I'm looking for one, and that's the LA Chargers fancy darling.
Hello, darling.
I think it's Melvin Gordon. As I say, he was great last year. He fell into the role almost the workhorse back because of Danny Woodhead's injury. But he stepped up. I must say, he wasn't particularly efficient as a runner, but he got an awful lot of volume. And volume and opportunity is what drives fantasy football. He's going to score touchdowns because it's what he did. This team, as I say, pick your poison. Stop the running backs. Fine, we'll pick on Keenan Allen and Tyrell Williams and the 2 tight ends. Stop them. Fine, let Melvin feast. Think where he's going in drafts. End of the first, top of the second. If you want to take a running back and you don't get your Bells or your Johnsons or your McCoys, then yeah, by all means, take Melvin.
There's a lot of players who we like, but there has to be players that we don't like, and let's find out who that fancy loser is on the LA Chargers.
The redundant draft pick of Mike Williams hasn't been healthy the whole time. Not helped by the fact that every time I've seen him, he has been wearing number 7. You're not a quarterback, sir. This is the NFL. Wear a proper wide receiver number, you won't get hurt as much. I strongly believe that. Hence why Sammy Watkins wearing 2 for the Rams as well. I don't see him cutting into Tyrell Williams' playing time when he's healthy. If they say he might be fit in October, yeah, good luck with that. He's not going to cut into Keenan Allen's. He's not going to cut into Dontrell Inman, who is being forgotten about, but is as good a third receiver as you could have in the NFL. Travis Benjamin's going to do it. I don't see what Mike Williams is going to do. What does he do? I can win contested catches. That's because you can't get open. And that's one of those setting a field for a bad ball. Or if I throw it up to him, I know he'll catch it. Yeah, you will, because he can't get open. I'd rather have someone open personally. I think he's just a waste this year, and maybe going forward, because I love Tyrell Williams, and I make no apologies for that.
Over under is 7.5. If that noise you heard was Dutton knocking over his own iPad because he's a prat. Over under 7.5. Home games against the Dolphins, the Eagles, the Bills, the Browns, and Washington. Road games against the Giants, the Pats, the Jags, the Cowboys, and the Jets. Jets game is in December, so we'll be in New York for December rather than 72 and sunny Los Angeles. Over under is 7.5. Neil, you going to take the over?
Absolutely. This is your division winner. I say you can't project for injuries, but if you can, you'll say that people are going to miss some games in this. The talent on this team, as I say, it's going back to the Schottenheimer Chargers. You just knew they were so much more talented than most of the teams around them. They just couldn't get it done. Well, new coach, but again, slight change. I mean, Gus Bradley's coming in. He's a winner as a defensive coordinator. He sucks as a head coach. Ken Wisenhunt has been there. This will be his third year. Yeah. So him and Phil Rivers have got this offense down pat. They've got some great pieces on defensive as well. I say Bosa and Ingram. They're moving to a 4-3. Bosa and Ingram are going to eat in this system seriously. So I'm all in on the LA Chargers. Although I say whenever you see LAC, I think Clippers.
Yeah, I look at this stuff and I think it's an over for me too, and they got a chance to be very good. I think we've established that. The interesting thing for me is what's the home advantage like, or does it appear? If it appears Dolphins, Eagles, Bills, Browns, Washington, that's wins. Do you know what I mean? Like they could win all them games. Do you know that's quite simple. So they play the Jags as well, the Jets. I see this as a 10-11 win team, and 7.5 is, if we were doing, a set on this would be a team I'd be seriously looking at and saying this is somewhere where I would put capital on these being over 7.5. Final team, Dutton. That is the still right now the Oakland Raiders. And the question for them is, what is the thing that can derail the Raiders hype train? Because there is a hype train, and we're talking Chargers. Everybody else is talking Raiders.
Well, as good as they were last year, and they were good, they were still a bit of a mess defensively. So it's a question of, have they done enough this off-season to address this? If they haven't, they're facing a much tougher schedule than they were last year. I mean, they're up against some good teams here, who potentially, you just look, sorry to cut ahead. Look at some of the wide receivers they're going to have to play this year. You've got Brandon Cooks and Chris Hogan. You've got Odell Beckham and Brandon Marshall. You've got Des Bryant. You've got the plethora of wide receivers the Titans have. You've got the Dolphins. You've got Kenny Stills, Devontae Parker, and you've got the Eagles. So you could have Alshon Jeffrey, but that'll be Christmas, so he might be injured by then. If their defensive backfield is not up to scratch, they're going to get torched. So it's a question of, can Derek Carr keep performing at his 2016 level and not regress somewhat? Because again, this team isn't really built for shootouts, because they can't guarantee they'll get so far ahead of the opposition that they can close it out. I mean, they'd obviously like to, pass the ball early and often, get ahead, and then lean on Marshawn Lynch. There's a question mark as well. Which Marshawn Lynch are we getting? The 2014 Dominator, or the 2015 looked like he couldn't be bothered and was hardly fit? If it's somewhere in between, they've got a decent committee back. If it swings one way or the other, the range of possibilities are huge.
I think you're right, don't it? Defense is an issue, as is the schedule. Don't forget they've been rubbish for years, so had a rubbish schedule and capitalised on it last year in some way, and they won a lot of tight games. I don't think they'd win those tight games if they were playing a better team, for example. I think an unheralded thing from me is Derek Carr himself. He didn't play in the playoffs because he was injured, and he broke his leg. Okay, it's not cruciate ligament, but how is he feeling after that injury? Is he okay? We'll find out. And obviously, yeah, I think what's the running game like? It needs to be good to allow them to try and control some of the ball, because the more they control the ball, the less time the defense is on the field. So
I did see.
It's good that they want to do that.
I did see one clip of their preseason game against the Rams where they lined up an offensive tackle and a tight end to stop Khalil Mack. Waste of time. Needed at least 2 more men over there, especially with the Rams roster. He just literally parted them out of his way.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, he's a monster. I think the issue is if he's not there in 2.5 seconds as is the cornerback still covering someone. I think that is the question. We don't really know. Again, much like the Chargers done, a lot of talent on offense, but there can only be one. Dutton, fancy darling.
Hello, darling.
Well, I think it's going to be Amari Cooper. He's had 2 very, very productive first 2 seasons in the NFL. Third season is usually when the wide receivers kick on. This is where they can become elite. Obviously, it'd be nice if they targeted him in the red zone. But we've seen with Julio Jones, a wide receiver can get by as a productive player in reality and fantasy without drawing every red zone target. It'd just be nice. He's run out of puff a little bit towards the back end of his first 2 seasons, both times. So again, having an effective running game is a way of storing him. As you say, you don't really want him to be running 60 deep routes a game because he will be knackered by November. I say last year, you can argue as good as he's been outperformed by Michael Crabtree, I think, especially in the big spots. I think this season that flips and this becomes Amari Cooper's offense.
I think it's you mentioned the loss of puff, don't you? It's kind of an unheralded thing from college to the NFL that you are playing, an additional 3-4 games dependent on bowl games and whatever. So there is that kind of additional stamina you may not have in the first 2 years. I mean, it's difficult not to like Amari Cooper, I guess, so it makes sense to pick him. Not everyone can be good though, Dutton, so I'm interested in who you think the fancy loser on the Raiders is going to be.
I think this is one of those names that people literally are going to keep. That people are prepared to go down on this ship no matter what flag he's waving. But it's not going to happen for Jared Cook. If as fit, as good as he was when he was healthy with Aaron Rodgers, I don't think this team it could use a third option in the passing game. Because I say, away from Cooper, away from Crabtree, you're very, very limited. I mean, you've got check down backs, and Cook is undoubtedly talented, but he's not consistent. So I don't think he's going to do anything worth. I think he's going quite early as well in drafts, considering the talent that is getting left behind when people are taking him. So no, I'm sorry, Jared. I'm officially off the boat now.
Over under on the Raiders is 9.5. Home games: Jets, Ravens, Pats, Giants, Cowboys. Road games against the Titans, week 1, which we've already found out won't be the Sky game. Congratulations, Sky. That's why I don't pay for you. Washington, the Bills, the Dolphins, and Merry Christmas to everyone in the Dutton household because you get Eagles versus Raiders on Christmas Day.
I'm taking the over because, as I say, I like this offense to continue. It's an ascending offense with a good quarterback. Some great pieces. It's got a great offensive line, as we know. And I think, as I say, Khalil Mack is just an absolute monster. And I think he can do enough if the backfield meets him halfway. I mean, they're talking up another 30 sack season. No, come on. It's not going to happen. But if he gets 15, then, if you can get 15, you can get another 30 around what he's done. You're going to compete in that division because the offensive line's in that division and it's against some of the ones people they're playing here. I'm looking at you, Giants. They're not the best.
Yeah, I mean, Jets, Giants, Bills, Dolphins. They're not great. Anyone remember why the Denver Broncos struggled last year? Oh, that's right, offensive line issues. 9.5. I'm going to go over. They're probably going to be 11 wins. This has a chance, Dutton. A chance to be a 3-team playoff division, I think. And for me, is comfortably the best division in the AFC.
3 teams in the playoffs and another team who won't disgrace themselves. They just won't be really in contention.
Correct. I'm looking here at some kind of 7 and 9, 10 and 6, couple of 11 and 5s / 12 and 4s. If you know what I mean, that's what I see in this division, and it will be the interesting thing. How do the Raider Charger games, Raider Chief games, Charger Chief games go? That will define how this division is. But I'm going over 9.5. I see them being like an 11-win team probably.
I mean, as we said, they won't win the division, but how the Broncos get on against the other 3 teams could determine who actually does.
Absolutely, Dutton. Absolutely. Plain spoiler. We like that. It's a good concept. So, as you said, AFC West, we see a division to watch and a division to be interested in. You know, I think if I remember correctly, Dutton, in the other divisions we've gone, and we'll do a preview on this next week. We expect Pats, I think we expect Steelers, and we expect Titans. We don't really expect any of the teams to push on and win 10, 11 games. So there is a big chance for 3 teams in this division to make the playoffs.
Could happen.
Let's move on to the NFC West. Last division, last but by no means least, unless you're talking about the San Francisco 49ers. First team is the Arizona Cardinals, Dutton. And I think the one question that everybody wants to know is, do we get the 2015 Cardinals back again this season? Or are we stuck with the 2016 version again? I
think on defence, we could very well get the 2015 one back, especially if Tyrann Mathieu is fit and healthy. Because I see, they've got Matthew, they've got Tony Jefferson, they've got Deion Buchanan, the money backer, wherever he is, Patrick Peterson. I can't believe I left Peterson as the last. They've still got some good pass rushers. Is it Chandler Jones and Marcus Golden? Great looking defence. Possibly a bit weaker up front. No Calais Campbell, but this is a serious defence. Offensively, they were awful to start last season, but Carson Palmer got better as the season went on. So we know Palmer's back. We know Larry Fitz is giving it one more go. Their other receivers are iffy. They've got David Johnson. If this team can just be halfway between 2015 and 16, it's going to be an explosive offense. It's definitely a team that is going to contend again. It's all on Carson Palmer for me, Dutton. He's not getting any younger, and as you said last year, he got better towards the end of the season, but did really struggle at the start. Can he stay fit? Can he stay healthy? Is he still capable of being Carson Palmer that we saw in 2015? As you said, defense seems back to snuff. Back to where we wanted to be, 2015 style. They've got David Johnson. I mean, let's be honest, David Johnson every time. But if Carson Palmer isn't fit, and the rumblings that we're hearing from Mr. Kangol himself, Bruce Arians, on how unhappy he was with the wide receivers at the start of the pre-season, there could be issues. I'm hoping not, because we all want the Cardinals, and especially Bruce Arians, to do well. I mean, they did say that Carson Palmer overworked himself last pre-season, so that his arm was tired very early into the campaign, so they had to cut his practice reps. There is no reason for Carson Palmer to take a snap in practice this season, gents. Absolutely no need. Let them do mental reps, or whatever you call them. And because, as I say, if Palmer goes down, they're screwed. Yeah. And we don't know what they're going to do in the future. But, I mean, you have to wonder, as I say, are Carson, Larry Fitzgerald and Bruce Arians, are they really concerned what the future is? Because they're not in it. Shouldn't be. And, no, it's been one of the best teams in football since Arians has been there. And as I say, Arians has paid his dues, and, for someone who was retired 5 years ago, he's done quite well. He's done all right, don't he? He's done all right. I think if anyone knows if anyone knows the fantasy community, and anyone hasn't lived under a rock, I think we know who this is going to be, but let's do it anyway. Let's find out who the Arizona Cardinals fancy darling is.
Hello, darling.
David Johnson, no matter what. Move on.
Exactly. It's that simple, people. David Johnson, no matter what. First pick, Dutton?
Yes.
I think it's a tough one, but I think you may be right. Not everyone can be David Johnson no matter what. So on the Cardinals, who is? Please don't.
Well, you can say the obvious one. I mean, a tight end in a Bruce Arians offense is, a bit like putting a guitar in the middle of one direction. It might look glossy, but they don't know how to use it, and they don't want to use it. But that's a bit too obvious. I'm not on John Brown this year. Quite, frankly, it was great to see him score a couple of touchdowns. I don't trust him to stay healthy. He's got an awful lot of buzz for what has been a rather underwhelming career. I mean, over half his games in the NFL, he has finished as a wide receiver 4 or worse. Over half his games. Doesn't score touchdowns. He's not a big volume guy. So I don't see if he's not healthy either. I mean, I hope he is healthy because it's a horrible thing to have to deal with. I mean, this isn't a footballing injury. This is a genetic defect. But I think he's gone. I think he came, he flashed for a bit, and we'll always remember the time he burnt the Eagles secondary because who couldn't? But he's going very, very late in drafts. But for me, he's going around players that I would rather have because I can see the upside. It's very limited for John Brown for me.
Over under on the Arizona Cardinals is 8.5. They've got home games against the Cowboys, the Bucks, the Jags, the Titans, and the Giants, and road games against the Lions, the Colts, the Eagles, the Texans, and Washington. 8.5.
I'm taking the over, but that's a horrible schedule on paper.
It's not great on it. And I think that we didn't really mention it on the AFC, and we should have. That whole what's your road schedule like, going west to east, losing the time zone. In theory, if it's a 1 o'clock game, playing at 11 o'clock, you don't really want to be playing Washington in December if you're Arizona, although you're probably a better team. You don't really want that. You don't want the Eagles, Texans defense. They come against Bucks defense. The Titans. They got some difficult games to them. What are you saying though on 8.5?
I say I'm taking the over. I think this division is going to kick the crap out of itself within games, but there's at least 3 games they can win at the division easily. That's not including the games against Seattle. Cowboys, as I say, we've seen what happens when they play a first place schedule. The Jags, The Giants, as I say, it's going to be a long day for them if they've got Eric Flowers at left tackle.
Yeah.
And then on the road, I mean, the Lions could do anything. The Colts are an absolute train wreck. My opinion has changed so much since we last spoke about them. We don't know what we're going to, and say we don't know what we're going to get from the Eagles, the Texans, and the Redskins, but we know what we're going to get from Arizona. They're going to try and score points quickly. They're going to go deep often, and they're going to try and kick the crap out of it on defense. I'm taking the 8.5. I'm going over.
I'm going to take the over, as you said. Don't know why. I can see 3 winnable games in division, possibly 4. Depending on what we think of the Rams, I guess. But what I will say on that road schedule especially is that all 5 of those teams, if they've got a weakness on defense, it's possibly secondary. So the thought that they're going to have, like the Eagles, have got a great defensive line, I think we're all aware of that, but the secondary leaves a little bit to the imagination, and
a tad,
and a long bomb is it could be in their future. Texans, great defensive line, secondary's Washington spent a lot of money on the secondary, still a bit blur, so they can score points. That's the thing. I'm going to take the over because I just think when you're in that division, it's so split half and half. They could quite easily go 4-2 in division, and then you need another 5 wins out of those 10 games, and there's 5 wins in there. Absolutely. Onto the other team in Los Angeles. Sounds really weird saying that. The Los Angeles Rams. It's the question really on everybody's lips, probably in Los Angeles and Kirk Cousins, and that is, can Sean McVay fix Jared Goff? I don't think that's the right question, because fixing would imply he was broken. He's not broken. He's a perfectly adequate air raid college quarterback. The question is, can McVay turn him into a functional NFL quarterback? And that's a totally different question. Because if he'd shown some NFL, if he'd shown NFL experience and had just broken down mechanically,
Well, that can be fixed. We've seen it fixed. Phil Rivers was on the scrap heap, and Mike McCoy fixed him. With Ken Wisenhunt. We've seen Blake Bortles' mechanics have broken down completely, but instead of fixing him, they've just endorsed him as a starter. Brilliant, well done. The offense he was in wasn't a very good one. It wasn't a very good school, and the track record for first round quarterbacks taken with a losing college record is not encouraging. Because they're not exactly coming from a culture of success. It's more, a culture of ineptitude and crap. It's a question is, can Sean McVay make this offense so goddamn simple that what's his name, Jared Goff, can execute it?
Yeah, I think you're right, Dalton. I mean, when you say fix, you mean play well in the NFL. I think you're right, though. As you said, he wasn't necessarily broken by his world in the NFL, but he has got a year of Jeff Fisher offense stink on him that definitely needs washing, probably like you'd get washed if you were in outbreak. I think I've seen McVay. He is a talented person on offense and can move the ball. Can he score in the 20s? I'm not 100% sure. Don't know if we're going to blame him or Jay Gruden for that. Probably take 50% responsibility each. Hopefully McVay can get that stink of bad red zone off him. The more talented this year, they've got Sammy Watkins if he's ever fit. Can he fix him? I don't know. There does need to be a serious bit of stuff happening with the Rams. The Rams to get them to, 8 wins, for example. We need to find something done, so you need to tell me. Give me a fancy darling on the Los Angeles Rams.
Hello, darling.
Well, Sean McVay, before he was offensive coordinator for the Redskins, do you know what role what position he held with Washington?
Tight ends coach.
Tight ends coach. So he worked with Jordan Reed.
He did.
Yep. They've got Gerald Everett, who was one of my favourite prospects coming in. He's not going to be a superstar this season, don't get me wrong, but just keep an eye on him for the future. The fancy star by process of elimination is Todd Gurley. Where he's going at the moment, I think it's around like the 3rd round. We know he's going to be the workhorse. He's going to get most of the carries. They blamed the offensive line last year. Don't get it twisted. It was bad. So was he. He didn't look bothered in a lot of situations. But, McVay coming in, this new energy, and also as well, Lance Dunbar, who they brought in to be the pass-catching back, is injured. I think he's on PUP, so he's going to be out for the first 6 weeks of the season. That's great news for Gurley, because Gurley was, decent pass catcher last year. So we've seen that McVay in the past liked to take his workhorse, if he had one, off the field and put Chris Thompson in to catch the passes. Well, he hasn't got that Chris Thompson player in Lance Dunbar now. He'll have to make do with Gurley. So in a PPR league, Gurley all of a sudden has a lot more value than he did 6 weeks ago. But is he going to be the running back one? Is he going to get 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns? I doubt it. But in a 3rd round, if you've gone wide receiver to start with, he's not a bad running back one, I suppose.
He's one of those players, I don't think I can remember a star falling so quickly. Like, within the first 5 or 6 weeks of his rookie season, he was the best thing since sliced bread. Last season, he was incognito. He was missing in action. And I hope he comes back just because we saw the talent and we hope that continues.
He had four of his first 5 games as a pro. He went for over 100 yards. In his first season, he had 5 games where he went over 100 yards. After 2 seasons, he has 5 games where he went over 100 yards. It's
an issue, though. It's an issue. We're not high on the Rams, as you can tell, I think. But so that means there must be losers, Dutton, and I'd like you to explain one of them to me. Do
you remember who my loser was for the Buffalo Bills?
It was Sammy Watkins, Dutton.
Yeah, same guy. Move on.
See, please go back in our archives, iTunes, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, and you will find us talking about the East. That seems like a million years ago, doesn't it? And do you know how long ago it was? Sammy Watkins was a Buffalo Bill.
Yeah, you cannot say this is an upgrade for him. and from Tyrod Taylor, because Jared Goff, I say, showed very little skill on the deep ball, which is what Sammy Watkins is. He's a deep ball player. This is going to be, we think it'll be an improved offense, but I still think it'll be conservative, maybe with a small C. And Watkins, I don't trust him to stay fit, and I certainly don't trust him to stay productive in this offense. So, yeah, congratulations, Sammy. You're a loser on both teams you've been a roster on this year.
That's spectacular, something. That's a first. Over-under is 5.5. They have home games against the Colts, which I believe is week 1, which, let's be brutally honest, has changed quite dramatically from where we would have said a month ago as the Colts were the tire fire. They also have...
I would rather literally stick so many pins in my eyes than watch that game now.
That if you watch Red Zone, don't expect to see much of that game. We may just see a lot of field goals.
Vinatieri and Zerline.
They also play Washington, the Texans, the Saints and the Eagles at home. Road games against the Cowboys, the Jags, the Giants, the Vikings and the Titans. Titans game is in December. Over-under is 5.5 done.
I think if they get to 5 wins, they'll be lucky.
Yeah, I see the same. Okay, they play the Saints at home, helpful, but Vikings, Giants, Titans, Cowboys on the road, don't see many wins there. The division, they'd be lucky if they get one game out of Arizona and Seattle. Yeah, you're looking 4-12, 5-11, and for me, the question for the Rams is not the same as the 49ers, we will get onto in a minute, but very similar, and it is, do we have a quarterback? And if we don't, how do we get Kirk Cousins? That's the job. So there's a 16-game process of how badly do we need Kirk Cousins here in Los Angeles? That's the question for the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, or will we be so bad that we don't have to worry about paying him over the odds? We'll have our pick of the next Jared Goff anyway.
Yeah, we'll have Sam Darnold, for example. Moving on to Kirk Cousins, the San Francisco 49ers. And for what feels like the 10th time in this review group, Dutton, what does success look like for the San Francisco 49ers this season? Well,
basically, they have to show improvement. They were dreadful last season against everyone not called the LA Rams. It sounds stupid, but bear in mind, this team started this decade by going to championship games and Super Bowls, whereas now you think if they went 5-11, that would be progress. And it would, because it's still not a great roster. It's turning over the defense again. A totally different offensive philosophy. Lots of new pieces on offense. Rookie head coach, who's going to be his own offensive coordinator as well. It's a steep learning curve for an awful lot of people. Will they be more competitive than they were in 2016? Couldn't be worse. At times, it looked as if they'd rolled over and have their bellies tickled. So they're in a tough division to be a bottom-feeding, rebuilding outfit, but that's the way it's broke. That's the way the cookie is broken. The cookie is broken. Cookie is crumbled. The biscuit is broken. Are they going to challenge for the playoffs? No. Despite some people on some radio shows that I've heard saying this is a 9-win roster. At what?
Who said that?
Wings. I can't remember his name, but it was a 49ers beat writer.
Is he drunk?
Yeah. I couldn't possibly speculate. Breaking news, Joe Hayden has signed with the Steelers. I think it's going to be a dogfight, but this is a year, to, as you say, to discover things about the franchise. Specifically, is this finally the team that gives Brian Hoyer a long-term home? It won't be. But, he's better, so much better than everyone else they've got on the roster at the moment.
The question is Kyle Shanahan. What is he capable of doing as head coach? And unfortunately, he's trying to do 2 jobs. So is he capable of doing both jobs? I'm not too sure. For me, that's got to be the issue. Is he able to do both gigs? And if he can't, how much will he struggle at one or the other, either on offense or as the overall head coach, I guess. They're not talented. They've lost a load of people from, that Jim Harbaugh team, sorry. It seems like a billion years ago. I don't, two of our favourite people in the NFL world, are San Francisco 49ers fans. Your team stinks, Will. Mark, your team stinks. Sorry, it's not impersonal. You had a good run, and don't forget you can go back and watch America's game whenever you want if you can get the Game Pass app to work. So there's always that.
Just another bit of breaking news, just going back to another team we did discuss. Where I said that the Raiders probably could do with a reliable third option. They have signed Seth Roberts to a 3-year contract worth $12 million with 6.45 guaranteed.
There we go. I know it's going to be a struggle, Dutton, but I'm interested in getting a fantasy darling from every team, so please give me one for the San Francisco 49ers.
Hello, darling.
Volume drives fantasy football. Volume and opportunity. There is one NFL caliber wide receiver on this roster. That's Pierre Garçon. He's got a history with Shanahan. We saw what he did last year. One of the more unheralded 1,000-yard seasons of all time with Washington last year. He's going to get fed an awful lot because there's no one else there. Now, he's not going to score an awful lot of touchdowns, but to be fair, when's he ever? But I mean, you could conceivably Pierre Garçon could lead the league in receptions. He could certainly lead it in targets. I mean, their other big playmaker on the passing game was Vance McDonald. They've traded him to the Steelers. So they've got George Kittle. He's not that impressive considering some of the tight ends I looked at this offseason, the rookies. He's not exactly in the pantheon. So it's basically get something out of your running backs and feed Pierre Garçon.
I miss Pierre. I think there's a lot more losers on this roster, so let's find out which one Dutton's picked out.
Slightly unfairly, it's Carlos Hyde. And, depending on who you listen to, he's an ideal fit for Shanahan's offense, or he's a terrible fit for Shanahan's offense. And Shanahan pounded the table for Joe Williams, who sucks and looks worse than Matt Breida and Tim Hightower. I just think there's no incentive for the 49ers to give him as big a role as he should have, considering he's going to be out of contract next year. And as I say, this team is trying to find itself. Kyle Shanahan does have a reputation, though, of fitting his scheme to fit the players he has. So it might just be all this has been window dressing and he's going to unleash Carlos Hyde. But he'd be the first person in the 49ers to even try that, despite the fact Hyde was quite good last year on a putrid offense. But that was a Chip Kelly offense. And we know that the difference between a Kelly offense and a Shanahan offense, vast.
Absolutely. Over-under is 4.5. They have home games against the Panthers, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Titans, and the Jags, which is proper tough, by the way. And then they have road games against the Colts, Washington, Eagles, the Bears, and the Texans. Over-under is 4.5.
A soft over.
So you see 5 and 11.
Yeah.
You're buying into a improvement under Kyle Shanahan, but we're not saying, that you're not drunk like that San Francisco beat writer was.
No.
I'm like these are 4 and 12, 5 and 11. I wouldn't bet this because, they may get a few garbage wins at the end. Playing the Bears helps, and playing the Jags probably helps as well. Although, does it help? I don't know. Again, they're another team in what I would call the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. I think Kyle would do a lot to have Kirk Cousins there, and it would absolutely help the team going forward. Final team, Dutton. Team number 32, last but by no means least, because if we'd found out that they were last, I'm sure all of their defence would get dead mouthy about it. That is the Seattle Seahawks. And the question for the Seattle Seahawks, Dutton, although we talked about the Cardinals and how we expect them to be a decent team this year, in theory, for the Seahawks, do they have 16 games to prepare for the playoffs?
Who's head coach?
Pete Carroll.
Still Pete Carroll, right. Who's the quarterback?
It's Russell Wilson.
Right. Earl Thomas is not dead. He still has both legs.
I think both legs, and I think they both work again.
Yeah. Richard Sherman still there, yeah?
Yep.
Right, okay, I think I've expended enough energy talking about the Seahawks, as we know that they're going to go 10-6 to 12-4 and piss this division, because that's what they do. Russell Wilson was awful last year by every standard he has set himself. Now, you can say what you like about Wilson as a person. I personally think he's a Class A belter, but he's also a great quarterback. You know, he's done everything you'd want him to do on the field. He's got them to 2 Super Bowls. If he's fit and healthy, this is his MVP season. I honestly can't say anything else more specific. I love him, love Doug Baldwin. Running game gives me cause for concern. Jimmy Graham shouldn't have been as good as he was last year, coming back from not having no kneecap. The defence, as long as Earl Thomas is fit, they've got Cam Chancellor. This team's the absolute class of the NFC West, and I would argue the NFC in total, combined. This is the best team in the NFC if all parts are functioning. Granted, they do have Luke Jokel on their offensive line. But I would be stunned. That's how confident I'm. Stunned if this was not the NFC Super Bowl representative.
They're very good, and they have a load of talent. But you did mention that the elephant in the room, or what we call the fat lads on the offensive line, they stink. So the job is, we like Russell Wilson moving. We don't like him running for his life. Do they have a load of talent? Of course they do. I find it tremendously ironic that, in theory, the 2 teams that we consistently have at the moment are a Pete Carroll-led Seahawks and a Bill Belichick-led New England Patriots. 2 coaches who couldn't be any less like each other. It's humanly possible. Do you know? I know they're less like each other because Bill Belichick basically took over from Pete Carroll. So that means that the Patriots said, we don't want someone like Pete Carroll, we want someone like Bill Belichick. But does it work? Absolutely. You know how much I love Pete, fast and loose Carroll Dutton, my kind of boss. You cut a few corners here and there, as long as you get the job done, everybody's happy. Doug Baldwin, class. Russell Wilson, class. Earl Thomas, class. Sherman, Cam Chancellor, brilliant. Love all these guys. I'm with you, Dutton. These are the class of the NFC West, possibly the NFC. Can they keep the aforementioned Russell Wilson standing? That is the only question for me on this team.
And, we've seen that he can succeed with subpar offensive line play. I'm sure they'd rather he did. I mean, he's not going to be running the ball, for his life. 150, 160, 200 times a season. But if he can have 100 rushes, I think it was 2 years ago, might have been 3, he averaged 7.2 yards per rushing attempt. That's not a scrambler, that's a runner. That's someone who literally is going to make an impact on the ground as well with his feet and his arms. They are transitioning more towards it being a passing team, which puts it more on Russell Wilson. But that's good, because you can't rely on these running backs. You can rely on Russell Wilson. So I think, assuming the offensive line can just keep him upright for 3 seconds, he's going to make a lot of plays. They're going to make a lot of plays. They're going to score a lot of points. They're going to win a lot of games.
On that, I think I've got a feeling who you're going to pick, but let's find out. Fancy darling.
Hello, darling.
Well, if you take quarterbacks early, it'll be Russell Wilson. But he's going in the 3rd round of some drafts I've seen. I mean, he's going after Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, but that's still far too early for a quarterback for my liking. So I'm going to go with still an underappreciated wide receiver. Despite 2,000-yard seasons, despite 21 touchdowns in his last 2 seasons, Doug Baldwin. If you're not taking Doug Baldwin in the 2nd round, I'd like to know why. I mean, if he drops to you in the 3rd round, like I've seen some drafts, find anyone you can in your house while you're drafting and hug the bastards, because you should be ecstatic. You've got someone whose floor is exceptional. You've got someone whose ceiling we've seen. He's got a double-digit touchdown season in his locker. He's fantastic. I love Doug Baldwin. I've turned around completely, because when this was a run-first team, he was playing X, so he was the number 1 wide receiver on a team that didn't pass the ball. Woo. Well, now they do pass the ball, and he's bloody good at doing it. So, yeah, Doug Baldwin for me. He's going to finish in the top 12 wide receivers in terms of fantasy points. So, why wouldn't you love it?
A question on Russell Wilson, Dalton, while we're here. You said he's usually being drafted fourth. Does it surprise you, given his feet, that he's behind, for example, Tom Brady?
I just won't worry that some people are thinking if he's going to come back fit and healthy and all he's going to do is sling the ball from the pocket. And that maybe they're thinking, well, Tom Brady's got more touchdown upside, which he has because the Brady-Belichick goal this year, as we said, is to go 19-0 and pummel teams into the ground. So, yeah, from a touchdown upside point of view, I'd rather have Tom Brady. But giving the rushing element that a fully fit Russell Wilson can bring, there's no reason why he shouldn't be a top 5 quarterback. And possibly, if all things fall right, behind only Aaron Rodgers and Brady.
Not everyone is going to be great, though, Dalton. So I'm interested who the fantasy loser is going to be.
Well, I mentioned it before. It's the running backs. I don't see how you can trust any of them. Eddie Lacy is overweight. Yeah, he might be hitting his weigh-in targets. Great. Do you remember that? The big argument they have about some NFL players, they graduate. He did graduate. Yeah, because he was having the courses done for him. Just hit this target, please, Eddie. Oh, go on, we'll give you it. They so want him to succeed, but he's not. He's overweight. Thomas Rules has been good when he's been fully fit. When was the last time that happened? Doesn't help in the passing game. Eddie Lacy doesn't help in the passing game. CJ Prosise is the best receiver of all of them, but he's not going to get in the field because of the other two. Chris Carson is a 7th round draft pick, but he's getting buzz because that's what the Seahawks do. It's they thrive on competition amongst even their established starters. I honestly couldn't tell you who is going to be the lead running back in week 1. I certainly couldn't tell you who it's going to be in week 8 when the real bullets really start to fly. I just think for a team that literally for years had Marshawn Lynch, get him in your first round, set and forget, the running backs in this team need to be ignored.
Over under, Dutton. I'm going to stop first because I'd like everyone to realise what's just happened, and we have done 8 teams, which is 16 drops. And Neil has not crashed any of those drops. So congratulations to Neil. I know everyone will be made up that you actually watched what was going on rather than effing about on your phone. Bravo.
I would like to dedicate this achievement to our friend Michael Challoner. I know he never believed in me. He never has believed in me. He never will. So up yours, fat pants.
Over under is 10.5, Dutton. They have home games against the Colts, early doors, which can only mean bloodbath. Texans, Washington, Falcons, which would be a good game, and the Eagles. We really looked out by playing them in Seattle, didn't we? Road games against the Packers, the Titans, the Giants, the Jags, and the Cowboys. Over under is 10.5, Neil.
Take it up.
12?
12-4.
12-4. I'm with you, Dalton. I looked there and said, they go 7-1 every year at home. So say the 7. Let's say the 7-1. They then got to play San Francisco again.
8-1.
Rams again, and it's not the Jeffrey. It's not the Jeff Fisher Rams. So they probably won't lose. Yeah. So you're there already, and then you're playing Packers, Titans, Giants, Jags, Cowboys. You're beating the Jags. You're probably beating the Giants. Toss up on the other 3.
They'll beat the Packers because they've got the Packers number.
Well, true. So, are we saying this division, Seattle win, then followed by the Cardinals? You've then said the 49ers and then the Rams. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'd probably flip it round maybe and go Rams and 49ers, but it's pretty much a poo-poo platter.
That's one of those. Yeah, that's one of those bets that if you win it, it's I'm supposed to feel good about this.
Exactly. Exactly. And don't we've done it. 4 podcasts, somewhere in the region of 5 hours, and
it's probably nearer to 6.
And 32 teams done. Next week, it's back to business. We're gonna look at games. We're gonna give you our teams of the week. We're going to give you some starts, some sits, some darlings, some hot takes. And as it's the week one, we're going to give you predictions on some of the big awards and obviously who we think are going to win divisions/Super Bowls.
Yeah. Next year, let's do 8 separate episodes, shall we?
Yeah, this was your idea, not mine. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Just a quick programming note. I will be doing a weekly series for RotoViz on streaming tight ends. So if you don't trust your studs, you don't get your Jordan Reeds or your Gronks, and you need to know which tight ends are picked from on RotoViz every week, every Thursday, I believe. I will be doing an article on the top 3 streaming options. I will also be one of the rotational hosts for the RotoViz Highlight Reel podcast. We'll be looking at a series of articles or a specific article from one of the writers at RotoViz and going deeper into the creation and the findings of that article. So it'll be me, Dave Caban, and Colin Kelly. We're the rotational hosts. And yeah, I'll be doing my normal gobbledygook during the season. I'll be doing a Monday Night Football preview for Gridiron Experts, and I'll be doing my projections I'll be part of the team compiling projections for RotoViz. And hopefully, touch wood, I'll be doing the Fantasy Darlings for the Gridiron Pod as well.
I will be Dutton's boss on this show.
Yeah.
This show is Waxing Lyrical, Mained and Dutch. Catch it on iTunes. Please rate, review us. I am at Mainsy7. Dutton is at ndutton13. For people, it's Mainsy MAINZEY7. Programmer note for TalkSport 2 there. ndutton13. Combined, we are at waxing_lyrical. As we always say, bad spelling is me. Apologies. Any final notes, Dutton?
We made it. It's almost here. I mean, the last preseason game, I personally think the Jets v Eagles preseason week 4 game could be one of the worst bits of sport ever, considering the bottom half of the Eagles roster and the entire Jets roster. That could be an absolute shitstorm of ineptitude.
I won't be watching any of the games, but I will be prepping in preparation for Mainsy's DFS Team of the Week. And do you know what, Dutton? With that, these top guys are out.